Welcome back to The Explainer. Look, today we're decoding a massive, incredibly complex, and honestly, highly personal issue. We're talking about the systemic barriers and those sneaky behavioral traps that are actively keeping middle-class Africans from building real, sustainable, generational wealth. We're going to break down the exact blueprint you need to overcome these hurdles. We'll start way up high, looking at the macroeconomy, and then zoom all the way down to the daily, non-negotiable rules for your own personal finances. Let's dive right in. Now, you probably know this exact feeling all too well. You work incredibly hard. Maybe you finally land that huge promotion you've been grinding for, or that side hustle actually starts taking off. Your income bumps up, you feel like you're finally getting ahead, and then bam, out of nowhere, a single family emergency or a sudden health crisis completely wipes out all that hard-earned progress. Suddenly, your investments are back to zero. It begs the question, why does wealth on the continent often feel so fragile, like it's just slipping through our fingers? Well, the sheer scale of the challenge we're up against is staggering. Research shows that without this safety net of inherited generational wealth, middle-class Africans are starting way, way behind the starting line. So to actually close this massive historical asset gap, you don't just have to work a little harder, you literally have to create wealth at a rate 7 to 10 times faster than your global peers. 7 to 10 times. That is a monumental number. And it tells us one thing for sure. Doing things the traditional way, yeah, that simply won't cut it. We desperately need a new playbook. All right, part one, the macro entrepreneurship engine, systemic barriers and breakthroughs. Get this, Africa boasts the highest entrepreneurial activity rate in the entire world. Right now, over 20% of working-age Africans are starting new businesses. That's an unbelievable amount of raw, localized drive. But, and it's a big but, these founders are hitting massive structural brick walls. They're dealing with practically zero access to affordable finance and risk-averse banks that want to charge them sky-high interest rates. Add to that the headache of spotty, unreliable power grids and a complete maze of bureaucratic red tape and constantly shifting regulations. These hurdles are actively suffocating long-term business success. So how on earth do founders break through those walls? Well, academic research points out three really clever workarounds happening on the ground right now. First, there's a huge push to leverage local resources. Think of an entrepreneur using indigenous knowledge to revolutionize agriculture instead of importing insanely expensive foreign tech. Second is social entrepreneurship, building businesses designed from day one to tackle poverty, like offering microfinance to local market traders. And finally, pure innovation. African fintechs are literally leapfrogging massive infrastructure gaps by using mobile money networks to reach people traditional banks ignore entirely. And honestly, this is where the big, exciting breakthroughs are happening, with mobile internet penetration just exploding across sub-Saharan Africa and the African Continental Free Trade Area opening up these massive cross-border markets. Technology is unlocking wealth creation opportunities we've literally never seen before. Why is this a big deal? Because today's entrepreneurs suddenly have the digital tools to tap into global supply chains and a massive youthful consumer base, completely bypassing a lot of those local physical infrastructure gaps. It is a total game changer. Moving right along to part two, bridging the gap, transnational collective investments. So, if the macro landscape is incredibly challenging but packed with potential, how do we structurally bridge the gap to actually hit that crazy 7 to 10 times growth? Well, this brings us to a fascinating concept from the VolitionCap thesis, transnational collective investments. Every single year, a mountain of capital flows into Africa from the diaspora through remittances. But historically, almost all of that money gets instantly burned on immediate consumption, school fees, medical bills, family gifts. The thesis asks a radical question. What if we pooled that diaspora remittance capital, stopped treating it as just a consumption fund, and funneled it into high-value, global investments instead? The way we actually execute this pooling is brilliant. Through investment clubs, or as they're often known locally, cooperatives. By tapping into these cooperative structures, investors can use the dual citizenship advantages that a lot of diasporans have. This lets them seamlessly move capital across borders, get access to high-value assets that are usually locked away for elite family offices, and drastically slash the cost of fund administration through shared costs and specific tax breaks. This isn't just about saving a few bucks. It's a structural hack to completely bypass those systemic barriers we talked about earlier. Which brings us to part three, the micro-level rules for individual wealth. Okay, so we understand the big macroeconomy and the absolute powerhouse that is cooperative investing. But let's zoom all the way in now. Let's talk about you. Specifically, the everyday behavioral rules that govern your personal money. Because listen, Even with the greatest macro opportunities in the world and the most efficient investment clubs, you will still fail to build sustainable wealth if you break these 4 fundamental, unbending rules of personal finance. Rule number 1, the survival test. In our environment, emergencies are not some rare fluke. They're basically a Tuesday. So before your money can even think about growing, it absolutely must be able to survive daily shocks. Imagine tying up all your cash in a high-yield investment without an emergency fund, and then, boom, a sudden hospital bill hits. You're suddenly forced to liquidate assets, maybe sell a piece of land at a brutal 30% loss just to get cash fast. You have to build an ironclad emergency buffer first, period. Protect the investments that are building your wealth. Rule 2 challenges a very intense cultural pressure we face basically every day. I want you to ask yourself right now, does your money make too much noise? Seriously, think about it. As your income grows and you finally start doing well, is your lifestyle getting a bit too loud, a bit too fast? And that leads us straight to the principle of the privacy of wealth. Wealth has to be built in privacy. Why? 2 words, black tax. A flashy, loud lifestyle is like a giant neon sign that immediately attracts overwhelming financial demands from extended family the exact second they think you've made it. Oh, you bought a nice new car? Well, suddenly you're the unofficial sponsor for everyone's wedding. Plus, it attracts unwanted attention from tax authorities. If your lifestyle balloons faster than your actual portfolio, those external pressures will completely suffocate your money before it ever gets the chance to compound. Keep it quiet. All right, rule 3. This one exposes a super dangerous financial illusion, the nominal return. You might see a headline for an investment fund promising a massive 15% return. And hey, on paper, that looks absolutely fantastic. But if you live in an economy running at an 18% inflation rate, you have to subtract that inflation to find your real return. So in this case, your real return is actually a negative 3%. You are secretly bleeding purchasing power while walking around thinking you're getting richer. You have to ruthlessly chase real inflation-adjusted returns. Finally, Rule 4 drops a profound truth on us. Consistency beats intelligence. We put such a massive premium on academic degrees or trying to be the smartest person in the room. But in the often slow-moving African capital markets, chasing quick, smart, get-rich schemes almost always leads to total ruin. Having the extreme, boring patience to stay consistently invested over long periods is your actual competitive advantage. Time in the market is what allows compounding to do the heavy lifting, accelerating your portfolio so you can actually hit that crazy 7 to 10 times growth multiple we talked about. Wrapping things up with part 4, the path to prosperity. So here it is, the whole puzzle put together into a multi-layered wealth blueprint. And this isn't just some abstract list. This is a highly actionable battle plan. We have to innovate locally to completely bypass those infrastructure gaps. We must aggressively invest cooperatively across borders to pool our remittance capital. And on a personal level, we have to build a fortress around our cash to survive emergencies, keep our lifestyle totally quiet to dodge the black tax, ruthlessly outpace inflation, and stay consistently invested for the long haul. So, I'm going to leave you with this ultimate question to chew on as you look at your own finances today. Are you managing your money merely to survive today's crushing pressures, or are you actively structuring it using this blueprint to close that massive wealth gap for generations unborn?